Hi, it is Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host. Good morning to you. What a beautiful morning it is here in Arizona. I hope you are having a wonderful day today already going on. And today we have a true American Dream Maker. He is a hero to all of us. He is a wonderful, wonderful man, Richard Rodriguez, former Navy SEAL. I will bring him on, but let me get started and play the intro video, and we will get him on in just a bit. Here we go. Hello again. It is Zena Krogadal, your American Dream Makers host. What a awesome morning we are having, and I have an amazing guest to bring on. It is Richard Rodriguez. He is currently serving as the Veteran Service Coordinator at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, ERAU, as it's known here in Prescott. He is a retired U.S. Navy SEAL. He also has had a career in law enforcement. He has done so many things. He is the ultimate servant leader. You guys, I cannot wait for you to meet him. Here he is, Richard. He is an all-around great guy too. Did I mention that? He's an all-around great guy. So here he is, Richard Rodriguez. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Zena. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here. You are a mover and a shaker constantly. I see you, all over our community serving, and it's just so lovely to see you and your wife, around town and doing so much. And so thank you so much for being here. We are very, very honored for you to be on American Dream Makers. So let's just get started. Tell us about yourself, who you are, and what you're doing.
Well, Rich Rodriguez, I retired Navy SEAL. I got into the service back in 1985, pretty much out of high school. Had a gentleman that was a retired Vietnam SEAL. And he's the one he was my dive instructor. I was taking scuba diving lessons because always been having a love for the water. And he's the one who gave me the bug. He's the one who would tell me the stories, tell me about the teams, how they, it started back in the official SEAL started back in 1962. Before that, they were UDT, all the way from Normandy landing to now. They got readdressed as SEALs by President Kennedy. And he would tell me stories from Vietnam, and that hit me straight to the heart. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I had always, as a kid, been, driven to build all the World War II models and from both sides. And I was always fascinated with war and driven towards that, and every time we'd meet for dive lessons, he would give me a new story. And every week I couldn't wait for the next story. So that's what kind of gave me the bug to go into the Navy and join the SEAL teams.
So right off the bat, you knew you wanted to be a SEAL. So when you joined the Navy, you went with that in mind.
Yes.
So is the process different if you know right off the bat? Is it different than if you just enlist and then decide?
Yes, two completely different processes. When you enlist and you're out in the Navy, it's very difficult to get released from the whatever job you're doing in the Navy to come to BUDS, unless you're in otherwise if you go the other route, when you're in a fast track, which means you're going straight to BUDS, you're going your whatever school job that you enlist for, and then you go to BUDS. You don't go out to the fleet. You come to BUDS, but BUDS is its own animal.
So what does BUDS stand for?
So BUDS stands for Basic Underwater Delivery SEALs. So that is the basic training for if you want to become a SEAL. It's a 26-week long process of hell.
Wow, 26-week long. So you pretty much have to become a fish.
You have to be. It is the absolutely hardest military training in the world, and it's a no joke program. Many people come there and many don't make it. It has a 80% failure rate. So people come in and it's all walks of life, whether it's, you want to be the big, V-man back or the small guy who's in the Smurf crew. It's just the mentality. You have to have a strong body, but you have to have a stronger mind to make it through that program.
Well, I like that. I like that you said that. You have to have a strong body, but you have to have an even stronger mind to get through that. So basically, when you go in and you think, I want to become a SEAL. So do they do a selective process even before they put you through buds? Is there
Yes.
Okay.
You have to take a screening test from wherever, if you're coming from a fleet or if you're coming fast track, either way, you do a screening. It's a certain time for a run, certain time for sit-ups, certain time for push-ups, certain time for pull-ups, and then you got to swim. And all those, the difference is that all those are back-to-back with no rest. So you might finish your run, and 1 minute later you're on a pull-up bar, then you're on a push-ups, then you're on sit-ups, and then you're doing your 1.5-mile swim, your 500-meter swim. So it's very tiring off the bat because you have to have good endurance right off the bat. And that's just a screening test to get in. Once you get in, then it's called fourth phase. It's a phase where, all different people come who want to go to buds and have passed their screening tests and have orders. It's kind of a holding program. So if you have class number X, 300 and whatever it is now, it starts on, say, September 1st. Not everybody gets there at the same time. So, they get there to fourth phase, and that all you do is work out all day. It's getting you ready to class up. So, because I might come here on the 15th of the month, somebody's going to come in on the 18th of the month. So once they have, enough people, and the class update is the class update. So they come in, and once class starts, that's the beginning of your penitentiary for the next 6 months.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite the I guess the weeding out sounds like.
Fourth phase is the weeding out. First phase, because you go from fourth phase to first phase. First phase is actually the process, the phase that weeds everybody out. Everybody may have that want and desire to do the job, but they don't have the will, or the capability or the mindset. Buds will push you beyond your mental capacity that you thought you could do. It's designed that way. And buds is designed to make you break. So a lot of people break in the California water because it's in Coronado, San Diego. The California water is very cold. It's on average 52 degrees in that area, 52, 56, not much more than that. So it's cold, and you're constantly cold, wet, and full of sand. And so you're miserable, and that sand is like sandpaper. It's in everywhere in you. And then there's certain objectives that you have to accomplish, certain tests during each phase. And the learning learning grade is about a 45-degree grade. You have to learn quick, and you have to pass quick. They'll give you a chance to, make up something, but if you don't keep up with the training, you're done.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is amazing and very intensive. Hello, everybody there out on Facebook. We've got some great people viewing here, and thank you so much for being here. And if you have any questions for Rich at all while we are speaking, please don't be shy. Put it into the comments and go ahead and share this out. Rich has a wonderful heart and message, and I think it'd be wonderful for other people to hear and be inspired by him, because as you can already hear, what he went through to become a SEAL was definitely not something that everybody is able to get through, even if they have the desire. As he said, even if they have the desire, they don't always have that mindset. So I want everybody to hear this, because this is, I believe, a real key component in even being successful in life and being able to achieve the things that you think you can't achieve here in our lifetime. Would you say that is true, Rich?
That's completely true. There's been many platoon commanders, officers who have written books on leadership, because a lot of the methods that the SEAL teams use transfer directly over to businesses. On leadership in business, there's quite a few books written out there by many officers, because the SEAL teams are so successful.
So Elias Rodriguez says, has Rich ever thought about ringing the bell? Oh, tell us what is that, first of all, and what does that mean by that question? What does he mean by that question?
So the bell, that's like a forbidden thing. When you class up, there's a bell that is carried around everywhere. The instructors bring it around. And if you decide to quit, if you decide that you've had enough and no longer want to be part of the program, you come up to the instructors and you ring the bell 3 times. And once you ring that bell, you are done. That means you've had it, and they will let you out of the program. That bell is actually a negative motivator for everybody else. Now, I've never thought about it because fortunately, my brother and I went through the same class at the same time. So each of us gave each other motivation. My brother was also a Navy SEAL. Gave each other, motivation to keep pressing on. And a good thing about having a brother while you're going through training is you have someone to lean on. A bad thing about having a brother while you're going through training is that the instructors mess with you. So I would pay for his things that he would screw up, and he would pay for my things that that I would screw up. And sometimes we would just screw up to make the other brother pay. So I would do something stupid to make my brother pay. And it's just from the instructor point of view, it's enjoyable, because I've also been an instructor at BUD/S later on in my career. So it is, it's you come up with creative ways to have punishment. And when you have brothers, that's just, icing on the cake. You can get creative as you want.
Yeah.
But no, I never thought about ringing the bell. That's like this black cloud, this little black devil back here that's you don't want to touch. But when Hell Week comes, and Hell Week is usually the 5th week of first phase training, that's when you're up from Sunday evening is what they call breakout. I'll explain that in a second. All the way through the next Friday afternoon. You're up 24 hours for a whole week. And that's usually the one that gets the most people out. It filters the most people, just because we're doing a little construction, so you might hear some noise in the background. So Hell Week, they start you out at breakout on Sunday, and that's mass chaos. That's when all the instructors get together. They put you to sleep as they go to sleep, and right about 6 p.m. when it gets dark on the West Coast, all the flashbangs, explosions starts going off, smoke, it's chaos. They're yelling, screaming, get everybody out in the courtyard. They're mixing people up so you can't find who your boat crew is. They're on you to get, a muster together of who's who. Machine guns are going off with obviously blanks, explosions. It's water, fire hose. It's hell, right off the way. We get just confusion. And then everything starts from there.
Wow. So Becca 1 says, was there a character trait you didn't know you had that you learned about in BUD/S that you took with you for the rest of your life?
Yeah, awesome question, Becca. Thank you. The ability to reach your inner soul. Like I said, BUD/S teaches you a lot about yourself. And when you're faced with extreme hard decisions and your body says no, but your mind says yes, you got to keep pushing. That was one of the character traits I picked up from BUD/S, is how to reach in, dig down, ignore the pain, and most importantly, be able to compartmentalize. So compartmentalize the pain over here and just keep focused. What's the next evolution? What's the next evolution? How am I doing? Just get through this evolution. So the ability to compartmentalize and reach inside and shut everything off is something I learned about.
That is awesome that you didn't know that was inside of you and you had to dig deep.
Yeah.
It was because obviously, as you were telling us, ringing the bell was not an option. So quitting was not an option for you. So then the other option was, how do I get through this?
Yes. It's one evolution at a time. If you think of, I have to go through, I got this whole day, I I have a whole week. You're done. You're done, and that continues on. It's just today. What's the first thing we're doing today? We're doing a mile and a half run on the beach. Okay, let me just get through this evolution. Okay, made it through this evolution. What's next? What we might have the obstacle course. Okay, we got through the obstacle course. Okay, what's next? So we have chow or whatever. That's a resting point. Then there's a 3 mile swim. Okay, got through that. You have to only think about the evolution you're in, because if you think I have this, and this other 15 things today, you're never gonna make it. You're never gonna make it. And then the other thing is teamwork that you learn a lot, and is how to depend and how to there's some noises, and how to depend and how to work with other people to not only exploit your strengths but find out your weaknesses and how to work on those to bring your weakness up to something that you can manage.
Wow, I really absolutely love that you're sharing all of this, because there's some things that I'm picking up as you are talking. So you said you have to focus on one evolution at a time. So not thinking of, you already know they're going to ask you to do more than one thing in your training, right? So each day. But if you thought about all of those things, I suppose you would get paralyzed and overwhelmed and paralyzed. At least that's what I do in my life, my everyday life. If I think of all the 20 things that need to get done, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't, it's not going to happen, But you're saying chop it up and take it one task at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah, because during Hell Week, you're running 24 hours around the clock. You don't sleep, for 6 days, for a whole week, you don't sleep. So, and the funny thing is, by Tuesday is when your mind starts breaking down and you start having hallucinations from lack of sleep. So wow. Those are usually pretty funny.
Wow. Yeah, I bet. So what is, do you have like a memory of a hallucination that was funny? Does anything stick out?
Yeah. One of my favorite instructors at the time, he was Instructor Ballard. He's now a Hollywood stuntman. This was Tuesday afternoon, almost evening. And he was actually the proctor for the class. So he's the class mama, right? He runs the class. It's his class. And so he's the good guy, and all the other instructors are the bad guys, right? So he's the one in charge of the class and taking care of it. So sometime Tuesday afternoon, we're on the beach getting ready to go out to the surf. So we're all lined up. When you carry the boats are on your head. And, they're talking and getting everybody organized. And Instructor Willard is coming up from the beach to our position. And I'm on the left side of the boat facing out towards the ocean. I believe I was the first guy or second guy back. And all of a sudden I see this giant pizza about 12 feet tall rolling down the beach, and it's going to crush Instructor Willard. Right? So I go running out from under the boat and tackle this guy right onto the beach, because I'm thinking this pizza's gonna grab him. And man, oh man, that was a bad mistake. I paid the man pretty good for that. One, I touched the instructor and tackled him. Two, he didn't see it coming, so he got razzed by the other instructors. That a student tackled him and put him to the ground. So yeah, I paid the man pretty good for that for a while. So I had my own private Idaho torture for probably a good day.
Wow.
And there's others. Everybody sees things. When you're in the water, you see sharks. You see, just your mind goes crazy after no sleep.
Yeah, I would imagine so. That's why sleep is so important. But as a SEAL, again, you've emphasized how you have to train your mind. You have to have a strong mind to survive and to do the work that you need to do. So, Rich, I thank you so much for your service to us, to our country, to the things that you have done to overcome, to become a warrior, to protect all of us, so that we can actually sit here today and have this conversation and be able to live in freedom. And freedom obviously comes at a cost. And so I just want to thank you so much. The other thing that you mentioned a little earlier that I really love was that you talked about how important teamwork is, and that you guys fueled each other and built each other up. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, SEAL teams are famous for their teamwork. The one thing about the teams that's special is that the word can't doesn't exist. And that's why the SEAL teams are so successful is they're given the jobs that nobody else can do because they say, I can't do that. We can't do that. And the teams will come in and it's just a complete different way of thinking that you're indoctrinated into. And you learn it's a positive mentality. There's no such word as I can't. So if we have to go from point A to point B and it's a straight line and there's a giant wall there and it doesn't allow me to go through, well, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right, I'm going to blow it up, I'm going to go under it, I'm going to go over it. There's no such thing as I can't in the SEAL teams. So the creative minds open up and say, okay, how do we do this? How do we accomplish this task that everybody else cannot do? So that's one thing. And the thing, what comes out is that is the great ability of working together and, knowing each other. So that's where the teamwork comes in. So when you're in a platoon, and a platoon works up for 9 months and then you deploy for 6 months. So you're with these guys for a year and a half. And the training schedule is nonstop. So these guys and you're closer to these guys almost than your own family, your own platoon mates. You know their silhouettes, you know what they look like. You don't have to speak sometimes. You just see the guy in front of me, he's shifting this way. Well, I know what he's going to do. I'm going this way. That's how the teamwork works. And you spend so many hours with each other and, how to take a situation that is perceived to be unable to do and break it down that each person has a special little section on how to cut this pie up, and you all rely on each other. Especially, another example of when teamwork comes in is when you're entering a building, like in a close quarters battle, CQB battle type thing. You're entering a room or a building and there's hostiles on the other side and everybody has their sector of fire. So like the number one guy would go to the, immediate to the left or right, whatever direction. The number one guy goes left. The number two guy goes right. Number three guy comes in, goes left. Number four guy goes right. Well, each one has their sector of fire, and you have to rely on the other guy to know that he's covering his sector of fire. So that's another example of teamwork. So if I come in and I go left and I engage someone immediately to my left, and there's someone from the center over, I can't worry about that guy in the center over. I'm engaged in here. I have to rely that my teammate is taking care of his sector, which is from the center over. So there's a lot of you rely on the other guy a lot with your life, because he has your life in his hands and you have his life in your hands.
Wow. Thank you for illustrating that. That was such a great illustration of what has to happen. So once you get out of BUDS, you graduate, which then you said 80% do not graduate. It's an 80% failure rate. So only 20% actually makes through the 26 weeks of hardcore training. And so you graduate, then the training is never over. That's just the beginning, correct?
Yes, that BUDS is just block number one. It goes exponentially higher from there. So out of my class, we got 132 guys start in fourth phase. 18 of us graduated. From there you go to jump school out in Fort Benning to get your basic wings. Then you come back. And it might have changed since then. I retired in 2005. Then you come back. What's called SEAL qualification training. So when you get to your team now, same thing. Different guys show up, SQT at different times. So now they have the next block of advanced training. So you might get 18 guys or 10 guys go to SEAL Team 3, and they're in the intermediate. They're not in a platoon, yet. They've just graduated BUDS. Now they have their jump wings. Now you need to learn how to take building block number 1 and expand it to building block number 10. So you learn a lot more advanced skills there. So everything you learn in BUDS, you graduate on. Now you learn the advanced tactics. Now you learn advanced dive moves. Now you learn free fall. Now you learn special diving, navigation, explosives. Everything graduates again to number 10. And then once you're done with that, then, it's just like a football thing, like in college. You get selected to a platoon, and then you get to your platoon, and the training starts again. And then now you go from number 10 to number 50 or number 100 in training. Now everything's, even more advanced. There's no blank anything that ever really, except for Bud. Now everything's live fire. You're doing tactics with live fire. You just exponentially continue to grow and hone your skills. You shoot so much and hone your skills so much that by the time you deploy, from the time you start working up to by the time you deploy, you've already shot that weapon out. You have to get a new weapon. It's in 1 year, you've exhausted the life of that weapon. So that weapon becomes your second nature. It's an extension of your body, and your skills are so honed you can't miss. And I don't mean to make it sound so graphic and awful, but that is what the job is. You're a warrior. You're the tip of the spear.
Right.
You're there to take bad guys out.
Right. Wow. Thank you again for giving us that illustration. Lori says, "Why did you and Elias sleep in a tree?"
Oh, she had to bring that up. Oh, thank you, wife. Love you. Oh man. Oh, my brother's on, Elias. So my brother's on also. So here we go. All right, because she brought that story up.
But by the way, Elias says your family wants to thank you for not only serving this country in combat, but also serving the public and law enforcement, as well as the veteran and the community. Stand up. Oh.
So my brother that you just read from, he was also SEAL.
Awesome.
So we grew up in New Jersey, right? City boys, don't really know anything. We come into the Navy, and then we come into Buds and graduate, and wind up at SEAL Team 3 together. So we're in SQT, so SEAL qualification training. We're learning that next step of advancement. So we're up in Laguna, California, and doing land navigation. So we're buddied up together because you're always with a buddy. You're never alone, right? And you're never more than 6 feet apart from your buddy. So we're doing land navigation, and we're new to the woods, right? We're new to outdoors in that capacity, right? We're city boys. You don't have a whole lot of that out there. So, God, I wish you would never brought this up. So we're out Laguna, and all your navigation's at night, right? Because SEALs work at night, and you hone your night skills. You stay late up during the day, not to be seen. So we're doing land navigation, and we're going point A to point B, and this is probably our third or fourth point for the night. And we're up in the mountains, and we're going to our next point, and all of a sudden we hear noises, right? We're like, and we're like, what was that? Right? Two city boys, and we're in our early 20s. I'm in my late 20s, and we're like, I don't know, what was that? Is that a bear? Well, I don't know what it was. And we keep going, and you're hearing tree limbs break. So it's got some weight, whatever it is. And we're hearing, right? And we're like, now we're getting scared, right? Because you don't have a weapon, you have a weapon, but it's got nothing in it, so we have a knife. And we're like, what is that? And it gets closer, and we hear it. And we were hearing large snaps, so like a good tree branch is breaking. And we hear just this growl, right? And Elias goes, I think it's a bear. And we're like, okay, well, let's climb up this tree, right? Not even thinking that bears can climb trees, right? So we climb up, we get up, it's pitch black at night, right? So we get up there and climb up this tree, and like, whoo, we tie ourselves to the tree because we know we're going to spend the night in the tree, right? So you tie yourself to the rope with a rope to the tree so you don't fall out. We know we're sleeping in this tree. So we wind up sleeping in this tree all night, right? And daylight comes, right? And we wake up, and we think we're like 30 feet up in the air. And when we look, the lowest branch was like 5 feet high, and we were just ground level. But at night, it looked like we were 30 feet up in the air. So if a bear did come, all I had to do was just stand up and smack the hell out of us, you know. So that was our tree story. I wish you would have. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Lori. I think that's great that you and your brother got to share such an amazing experience together. And how many years apart are you?
6 years apart.
6 years apart. So I bet that really bonded you really tightly, because my sister and I are 6.5, almost 7 years apart. And I can tell you that for many years, we didn't really have a close connection because there's just too much difference in age. But to experience going through buds and being SEALs together. Wow.
I didn't really know my brother until we went to buds. He was 6 years younger than I am. So, you know, when you're a teenager, you don't want to play with a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, or, you know, as I'm 16, I don't want to play with a 10-year-old. You know, he was the baby. So I didn't care about him when we were growing up, you know, but I didn't know my brother until we met at buds, and we became very close after that, you know. Especially being in teams together, you know.
That's so awesome. So awesome. I'll have to have Elias on so he can give, you know, his perspective sometime. I'd love to hear, you know, how it was for him. But I think that's just fantastic that God just brought you to go together. And I bet that must have blessed your mom that the two of you were together experiencing it versus separately.
Yeah, my mom was old world. So she, you know, she really didn't understood what we did. She really didn't know. She knew we did something in the Navy, but that's my sister Jane.
Yeah.
Coming on right there. But she didn't really know what we did. You know, she couldn't understand it. You know.
Yeah. Well, she probably didn't want to know all of it, to be honest, as a mom, to have both of her boys.
Elias is doing something there.
Yeah, Elias said, we didn't know either one of us were going to buds.
That's true. That is true. So my experience was a little bit different than his. Sorry, noise, but those are quick. But we both wound up at buds at the same time, not knowing the other was putting in for buds. So I got there a little bit earlier than he did, and wound up with an injury and had to reestablish again. And we both wound up in the same class after that.
Wow. Your sister says that my mom suffered a lot after they left. My dad cried everything they left. Yeah. I would imagine, yeah, as parents, it's like you have this, I would, you know, as a mom, it would be a real mixed emotion. You're proud that your boys want to go and serve, and it's a very honorable thing, but at the same time, these are your boys that you gave birth to, gave life to, and there's that real high possibility that they may not come home. And so I can't imagine that it would have been the case.
Yeah, it's between Lori and I, we have a blended family, and we have 7 children. And you know, Lori's second oldest son is in the Marine Corps in Hawaii, and I feel it. You know, and when you blend a family, they're all your kids. You know, they all call me dad anyway. You know, so I feel it. You know, when he comes home and he's gone, and now I know a little bit about what my parents went through, and I'm trying to get my boys in. Total pro military. I think everybody should serve at least a couple of years just to understand this country and go overseas and realize what a wonderful country we have here. I'm a total patriot. So is Lori. And you don't know how good you have it until you leave here and see other places. You know, this country is amazing.
Yeah. Well, along with Lori, said that she wanted to thank Elias. Thank you for your service to both of you, that you went into law enforcement and continue their service. So I absolutely agree. Thank you so much, Rich and Elias, for laying down your life and continuing to lay down your lives. It has not ended. The thing with veterans is that your oath never expires. It always continues, whether you're retired or not.
Yes.
And that is what I love about veterans. That's why I serve the veterans through VA Rep, because it's my way of giving back. Although I will never be able to, uh, give equally as to what you've given to me. But I agree with you. I think everybody should go and serve, and the military for sure. I think there's a lot of benefits, but serve in any capacity possible.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Military or first responder or whatever. But, to me, the military, most young guys, 17, 18, they don't know anything. They don't grow up until they're 25, right? Most men. So I think military gives them structure, gives them direction, gives them, maturity, responsibility, and it makes them grow up fast.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I enjoy about the military is the structure, the chain of command, understanding people, understanding responsibility, understanding what you're getting into, the danger and the bigger picture that's larger than yourself. The spirit of corps, the camaraderie. I just absolutely love it. I think it once it's in you, it makes you the person who you are. And it makes you, it makes you grow up fast, and it makes you responsible and think of different things in different perspectives. And that's why employers love vets, because they know they're going to be on time. They know they're going to work, they know they're going to put out, they know they have structure. And, that's sometimes hard to find in the outside community, get somebody even come to work on time,
Yeah. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So Jane says, Rich, don't you think our childhood together was your pertaining? Rich has an older sister who also served in the Army. Thank you so much, sister. Vietnam veteran, older brother too, active Navy nephew, and an inactive Navy nephew as well. Oh, you got a whole family of service.
Yeah, we have our family's always military minded. My dad couldn't serve because of injuries that he sustained while he was young. But I have two older brothers that were drafted in Vietnam. I have an older sister that went to the Army, Mary. So my two brothers, Junior and Freddie, they were drafted to the Marine Corps during Vietnam, fought in Vietnam. Then comes me. I did my 20 years in the Navy, and my brother, also Elias, he has a son who is active in the Navy. My brother Peter, his son went to the Marine Corps. And there's a few others. I just, once your family starts going large, then we have Ryan, who's my son now, who's in the Marine Corps. Trying to get my son Vinny into the Navy, and my other son Dominic, trying to get him probably to the Air Force. So, it's a military minded, Carlos, that's right, my other nephew, Carlos. He was in the Navy for 11 years and then got out. So, military family.
That's awesome. What a great legacy. Doug says, I think they have the hearts of warrior, also known protectors of the vulnerable, and that shows in the actions of both brothers wherever they go in life. I believe Doug is referring to veterans. Absolutely, Doug.
So
sure.
Doug's a good friend of mine, probably my best friend here in Arizona. Not probably, he's my best friend in Arizona. He lives down the valley. Doug and I both served on Surprise Police Barn together.
Oh, well, thank you, Doug, for your service as well. Wow, this is great. I really am enjoying you giving us so much insight and details to the background of what it's like to be a SEAL. And so, as you served on the SEAL Team 3, correct?
Yes.
And how many years were you in service with SEAL Team 3?
First time was 7 years, I believe. And then I was an instructor, and then I went back to SEAL Team 3, 2000. Then I went with SEAL Team 3, I went to Iraq. I did that initial invasion into Iraq, and then came back from that, and then did a tour in the advanced training, and then retired in 2005.
Wow. Wow, that's quite a career. in that for sure. So I know you've come and supported VA Rep and have been to all of our galas, and every time you show up, I just, well, first of all, I love the uniform that you wear. It's top notch. But then I look at all the medals that's on your chest, and I should have put a picture up there to share so that everybody could see. But can you maybe give us a glimpse as to what some of those medals are?
Yeah, the most important one to me is the very top one, which is a Bronze Star with V for Valor that I was awarded, graciously awarded during Iraq, the initial invasion in Iraq. So in 2003, when President Bush decided that we were going to go into Iraq, we weren't supposed to go in for another week. And from in March of 2003, we knew where we were going because President Bush did not want an environmental hazard that happened to his dad previously when Saddam blew up the pipeline and spilled all that oil into the ocean. So Bush Jr. didn't want that to happen again. So our initial takedown for the SEAL teams were to secure that pipeline and avoid any kind of environmental catastrophe. And, in Kuwait, there were 75 SEALs that were deployed, and that was the largest hit in history of SEALs working together. There were 5 targets that were taken down. There were 2 oil rigs out in the ocean, K-Bot and Maybot oil rigs, because that's where the big oil tankers pull up and, they fill up with oil, crude oil. And then on the shore, there was a K-Bot and Maybot PPL. Those were petroleum pig launch cleaning stations. That's the last place where the pipeline is on the ground before it goes into the water out to the oil rigs. And then there's a metering manifold station. Meter manifold station is where you see all the old, oil rig grasshoppers like in Texas pumping oil. They all come to this one place. It's called a metering manifold station. And from there, the water is separated from the natural gas, from the crude oil, and then that stuff gets, all pumped in different directions. So we knew our target was the Maybot PPL. It was a facility with 9 buildings on it, 2 gun emplacements, offshore gun emplacements. So the one you really can barely see it, but it's if you're looking at the picture, it's the one with the star closest to my lapel. That's what I'm talking about. We weren't supposed to go in for another week, but there was so much volley of back and forth. If you remember in 2003, so many rockets going back and forth during shock and awe that President Bush came over the intercom and gathered everybody in the main room. And we didn't know he was coming on. The skipper said, "Come on into the main room." And President Bush comes over the intercom and says that you boys are going in tonight, and you will not fail. And that gives me goosebumps still to this, And so we weren't supposed to go for another week. Loaded up and went and took down the pipeline. They were expecting us. I had 18 Royal British Commandos as my assault blocking force, and then I had 8 platoon members with me. I was the assault team leader, and hot landing zone, just like you see in the movies, as as we're coming in, the helicopters firing from both side gun and tail gunner going off like crazy because they're firing at the helicopter's taking rounds, and we land on this thing and in Iraq, and they'd expected us to come from the water because there was concertina wire all along the beach, and the reason we had to physically take down the gun emplacements were because the pipeline ran under the gun emplacements, and we had A-10 that was cover fire that couldn't destroy it from the air, so we had to take those targets down by hand, by foot, I should say, and so we get in, lands, the Royal British Marine guys, the first 2 privates get stuck in the Constantine wire, and everybody uses them as a launching ramp to come off. That's one of my memories. We get to the setup point, and it's just chaotic. Ambush from 2 different directions. And I have a partner, my British counterpart. He's called a color sergeant, which is equivalent to my chief. Andy Mary, I'll never forget his name. He's in control of the blocking force. His guy's an amazing job. It was just firefight from hell, and they took care of business. But the funny thing that I will remember from this assault is that the British Marine were using our ammunition and our explosives and our grenades. Now, our fragmentation grenades are different than their fragmentation grenades, which ours use 2 pins. One, a bail safety pin and a regular pin safety. So theirs just use the pin, the pin that you see on TV where you grab it, pull it out and you throw it. Well, ours has that, but ours also has one down below as a second safety. So as we're in the middle of this firefight, some of his guys see a bunch of Iraqi soldiers down in a spider hole, and Andy takes the grenade, pulls the pin, and throws it into the spiral hole, right? And I'm watching him do this because I'm trying to figure out where all my guys went, because we're trying to assault in the middle of a firefight. And about 3 seconds later, out comes this hot potato grenade between me and Andy, and holy smokes, we just both, jumped to the side, and we're sitting there waiting for this thing to go off, and it doesn't go off. I'm peeking out my eyeball like this, sideways, what's going on, expecting to get blasted any second. And once it doesn't go off, I look at him and I go, "You ding dong, you didn't pull the bail safety," So that was just one stressful thing in combat that was just I laughed, from that. It's a memory from that. But then come the assault part, and the firefights and the taking down the buildings, and once we took that target all over, we actually had a reactionary force come from the south. We had A-10 come overhead and take care of all that. We secured that target, and my platoon was actually the first platoon to own Iraqi land out of the whole invasion. We were the first ones to really put an American flag on Iraqi soil, but you're not going to see that anywhere. And then from that and other things that we did along the way, up and went through the did the march to Baghdad. We got caught in that horrible sandstorm, and we did assaults every night. So that's from all those things is where I was awarded with a Bronze Star for leadership during an unconventional target for national security. So very proud of that. I didn't feel I deserved it, but I was glad to have it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. That's just wonderful. Thank you again for your service and your heroism and all that you've done, because of your sacrifice, your brother's sacrifice, and so many others that took that plunge. We get to breathe this freedom. And so, and thank you so much to Lori. She is an amazing wife that you have. So
Lori is a patriot. Lori does anything for vets, hands down. So Lori, I'm going to give her a plug here. Lori is the branch manager of Nations Lending here in Prescott, and she, her soft spot and her specialty, she's a military specialist for VA loans, is both vets and first responders. So she has open heart for that, and she will bend over backwards and do everything in her power to get a vet a loan. And she's actually gotten a couple homeless vets off the street and gotten them into their homes. So Lori is a patriot through and through. Love her dearly.
yeah, that is so true. Lori is a wonderful woman, and I'm going to have Lori on the show too, because she is an American dream maker for sure, and she has so much energy, and she's a very loving and obviously very supportive wife. And so I'm so glad you have her in your life. How many years have you been married?
Not long. This December will be 2 years. So we got married 12/31/21, 12/31 on 12/31 of 21. So we went down to Mexico, Rocky Point, and we got married. We had a Hawaiian wedding in Mexico on a sandy beach with bagpipes playing, my bagpipe instructor, and it was the craziest wedding ever. You know, so people were like, "You're," and then we had a Mexican theme to it also. So we had a Spanish, Puerto Rican, Spaniard, bagpipe, Scottish, crazy wedding, and Hawaiian, because everybody was in Hawaiian dress. So
yeah, wow, that sounds like a fun wedding for sure. So Becca 1 has a question. What situation moments are you most grateful for during your active service? Oh, I love that question, Becca.
So Becca is my niece. She's my sister Jane's daughter. I would probably say most memorable. It's not one thing. It's the whole adventure of actually going overseas to war. Because now everything you've ever trained for is put to the test, and you learn even more about yourself when you're in that type situation where you're confronted with life and death situations all the time. So for the first month of the Operation Iraqi Freedom, we didn't sleep for more than 2 hours a night, because we did the initial takedown, and then we had to do the march to Baghdad, and we were attached to the Marine Corps. So the Marine Corps is out there, gun blazing it with their tanks and all that jazz, making the big waves. But that requires a whole supply chain, beans, bullets, food, the whole 9 yards, right? To support that. So the supply chain is coming up behind them. We're on Highway 1, and they would travel during the day and stop during the night. Well, when they stop during the night, they'd get ambushed, from freedom fighters, right? Whatever they were. So we were, we were responsible for going out and finding those freedom fighters and, taking them out every night. But as everybody else was sleeping, we would be out working all night, come back at 6 a.m. or between 4 and 6, and the convoy started again at 7. So we get about 2 hours of sleep every night because it took 3 weeks to get up to Baghdad. And then once we got to Baghdad, we had to secure the city and, find a stronghold. So for the first month, I only had about 2 hours of sleep every night. And like I said, Bud's not the hardest thing. Life was the hardest thing. And from there, what I take away is that, you learn about a lot of your inner self, what you're capable of when you're put to the test, and, everything that you've trained for comes to life. Am I ready, or do I know? And then you grow from there, and you realize I'm pretty good, I'm here to take care of business, so.
Beautiful. So you've got anniversary 40th. Is it the 40th anniversary for the SEAL Team 3 coming up?
Yes. August 4th and 5th is the 40th anniversary for SEAL Team 3. I was there during the 10th anniversary. Both Elias and I were there during the 10th anniversary of SEAL Team 3. So now it's the 40th coming up, and looking forward to seeing some old folks. And also we have a SEAL Team reunion that happens every year. There's one on the East Coast and there's one on the West Coast. So the West Coast one's from the 16th to the 20th of August. And I haven't been to that one in probably about 4 years. Just timing, things getting away. But this time I'm not missing it, taking the family out there.
Great. Well, Alea says, was there a movie made about any of your ops in Iraq?
Not a movie, but at least I don't know. But I'm in a book. There's a book written about, it's called Downrange, about the initial invasion of Iraq. And I'm displayed in there as Chief Gonzalez. Talks a couple times about the ops that we did.
Wow, pretty awesome. Have you thought about writing a book yourself, or?
I won't. I was brought up by when I went to Buds, it was all the old Vietnam guys, hardcore, you know, and it was at that time. It was still, Navy was still a little black ops, so they were kind of recognizing or letting it out to the public that yes, we do have SEAL teams, and yes, you know. So I was brought up under, you keep it to yourself. It's pride and professionalism. You don't need to tell anybody that. You didn't wear SEAL team insignia. You didn't have markers on your truck. You don't have anything that says you're SEAL. Nobody needs to know because it was still black. So they're like, you don't write books, you don't do anything, because at that time it was considered a sellout, and you betrayed the SEAL teams because you were letting out information to others that could use that to conspire against us. So that's always been my mentality. And, like I don't have any SEAL team markers on my truck or nothing, or, I don't tell anybody that I am. Usually other people tell that I am. It's just the way I was brought up, It's just, quiet professional.
Yeah. Well, I've got one more question. We're getting close to the hour. Isn't that amazing how fast this goes? And by the way, you really are demonstrating that your SEAL life skills have come far beyond, because all that construction that's going on behind you, you have not skipped a beat, and it has not distracted you one bit. So good job, my friend, in keeping going. You are absolutely demonstrating for sure. So Becca says, can you explain your involvement in the design of the tanks?
Tanks. Becca refreshed me because I'm getting old and I don't remember things. I've been blown up, so my memory is short.
Well, and as maybe she's maybe thinking of how to refresh her memory, let's kind of get on to what you're doing now. You are at Embry-Riddle. And you are the veteran students resource on campus. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So after I retired from the teams, I actually was a police officer down in Surprise, and fantastic police department. We'll talk about that some other time. I was a motorcycle officer, and I was a SWAT team leader there. Love that, and was injured on the job, and then retired and came up here to Embry-Riddle. So I actually came to Embry-Riddle. I didn't know much about this university, but I was invited to come to the dedication of the College of Security and Intelligence Studies in 2014. So Glenn Doherty, who was one of the two SEALs that were killed in Benghazi, him and Ty Woods, defending the embassy. Glenn Doherty came here to Prescott, to Embry-Riddle. He was a flight student. He did 3 years here, and then he finished the last year in the teams. I was actually Glenn Doherty's one of his instructors in third phase, and then he wound up coming to Team 3. So I came here, and the chancellor at the time, Frank Ayers, amazing. He was a retired Air Force colonel. Flew big heavies, and so he said, "What's your involvement with Glenn?" I'm like, I know Glenn. I put him through training. I deployed with him probably 7 times. He was a good friend of mine, and he'd asked me what I was doing, and I said I just finished my associates, and I was probably going to NAU. I didn't have a plan, It was a left turn that was given to me, and he's like, "Well, how come you're not coming here?" And I was like, "This place is a little out of my reach." I don't think I'm smart enough for this place. So long story short, he had me apply, and on a Monday, and took a tour, had me apply, and Wednesday I got accepted and came here. I started off in the Global Security Intelligence program, and wound up changing to aeronautics because I was a flight miner. I was flying helicopters. And then came to graduate in 2018 and worked. I was offered a job by Professor Tom Foley in a school safety and security grant. So he was looking for someone with special ops experience, police experience, and SWAT experience. And he says, my name was the only person on LinkedIn that kept coming up. So he got a huge grant from the National Institute of Justice to study the conditions of schools. So we went through over 100 schools in Arizona, looking at the conditions of the entry points in reference to active shooters. And the purpose was to figure out what types of doors and windows were being used and how to fortify things, and especially the glass, because glass is usually the biggest entry point, the glass next to the doors, which is the side light. And we tested some protective films to put on them, which would stop the breakage of glass, so it was a whole giant test. And then that took 2 years in doing. We went all the way from Tucson up to Page, and did schools. And then once that was coming to an end, I was offered the job here as the Veterans Resource Officer. And I accepted because I didn't really have a job. Mine was coming to an end. And it's been amazing. What I do here is Embry-Riddle is considered a veterans-friendly campus. So they have to have a building for veterans isolated because we're considered non-traditional students. We're older. They have life experience. They have war experience. They're not just your average, 18-year-old that's coming straight from high school that talks about their prom and their job at McDonald's or wherever it may be. And sometimes they don't get along. Those are two different animals, and vets, they're focused. They're here for a purpose and they're focused. They're using their benefits that they get after, they do their GI, their post 9/11 benefits that they get after doing the tour. So if you serve 3 years in the military, you're enabled with 100% educational benefits, and that gives you, time to come here to college. And it's also a yellow ribbon school, which means, there's your tuition is covered. The rest of your tuition is covered by private donors, and the university discounts it by half. So my job is to run all the veterans here, is to manage the building. I run their organization. We do the meetings. We have, once the semester starts, we have regular weekend barbecues, weekend barbecues. It's called Red Friday barbecues. And return everyone deployed. And you wear red T-shirts. And the money we raise there, we do two things. They go for internal scholarships and they go for donations. So last year we raised $1,000 to go to POWMIA Foundation, which we donated $1,000. And in October, we changed our Red Fridays, and this is a plug for Lori's, her idea, to Pink Fridays in support of breast cancer. So our Red Fridays became Pink Fridays month, and we raised $600 to donate to Arizona Oncology. So the group here is fantastic. It keeps me young, constant new vets coming in. So I connect them with, if they need internal services or external services. I do a lot of counseling, that chair back there. A lot of people have sat in that thing and poured their heart out. Everything from my dog, my cat, to suicide, to everything, So I do a lot of that. And just generally, help them with their events, organize their events, and just support them in whatever method they need. And it's just like a big family, Lori and I go out to their, they have a kickball team, and we go out there and we play, and we usually lose, but it's fun, and so it's like my extended family out there. I'm very close with a few of them. They've been over my house quite a few times. And some of them, they come and go, but there's a few that always you connect with, but I will have friends forever.
That's so awesome. Rich, I just thank you so much for your big heart, your servant's heart, and that you just continuously give and you continuously serve. You guys, if you want to get a hold of Rich, his phone number I've got on here, his work number is 928-777-3796. And then his email is scrolling around at the bottom there, richard.rodriguez4@erau.edu. So if somebody can put that into the chat so we have that, that would be fantastic. Would appreciate that. I cannot believe this, but we are at the hour, just slightly over. However, I want to get back to Becca's question, just so if you can just maybe give us a quick synopsis. She says it was the tools on top of the Hummer.
Well, after I came back from Iraq, I was always an off-roader, and I'll make it quick because I know we're out of time. I was told by the Commodore once we were in Baghdad that I was going to go back, stand up a tactical ground mobility unit, and teach all the new SEALs the skills that I had learned in Iraq, because SEALs we didn't have a ground mobility, we didn't have vehicles. We were always deployed by air, boat, sea. We didn't really have our own vehicles. So the Commodore at the time said, "You're going back and stand that up." And so what I did with help with some compadres, Tim King and some other gentlemen, was develop our own specialized Humvee. And with that, we had, the things that are great about the teams is that we weren't restricted to the supply chain. We could get things that were off the shelf out in town to develop our vehicles. And me and Tim made about 27 different modifications to the Humvee to work with how our SEALs worked. And I still don't remember the tanks, but I remember, the bumpers we put on them, the winches we put on them, we put sideboards on them to develop so we can deploy guys riding on the sides right to the buildings, the gun emplacements. I helped develop the armored Humvee. We just had plain skin armor Humvees when we went, and technical. So I actually drove around Baghdad in a Toyota. It was a Hilux to make it look like, with a big 50 cal on the back. So that's good because you look like a bad guy, but it's bad because you look like a bad guy when you're trying to come back into camp. So every night we come back into camp, I'd say, "Please don't shoot me." So we did a lot of work with the Humvees, and then now those vehicles developed, like the current MRAP, which I don't remember what it stands for, military or whatever. So we developed the whole ground mobility, and it exploded after I left. So I got it, me and Tim King got it started off the ground, and it exploded to, motorcycles, quads, all kinds of different vehicles, everything, So that was a good point in my life that I helped develop something that helped the teams.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. Pretty cool. Thanks, Rich, so much for sharing your time, sharing your insights, and sharing the things that you've learned along the ways, and all of that stuff. Thank you so much for everyone who jumped on here for your service and your time as well. You had a lot of supporters here that are heroes along with you. And so I just want to give that big shout out that I really appreciate all of you for sure. And so, it's always hard to say goodbye during these shows because I have so much fun, and it's such a great conversation. And again, Rich, I wholeheartedly just appreciate you so much for all that you do for our community here in Prescott and for the veteran community. And thank you so much to your wife, Lori. She's a wonderful help and support, and she does amazing things too. So really, really love you guys very much. And so I guess I have to say goodbye, but it's not like goodbye permanently. I guess we'll just say see you later.
Yeah. The only other shout out, which you and I spoke out earlier, to one of our community members, Robert Cressman, who received his Bronze Star with V for Valor from Vietnam after 47 years, which received that last year. So shout out to him and his wife, Lenore, who's a very, I believe she's a very, but she's a real estate agent here in Prescott, for another hometown hero. So my hats off to him.
Oh, I'm so glad you gave that shout out. I thank you so much. Vietnam vets are very dear to my heart because I'm from Vietnam myself and would not be here today breathing such freedom without the Vietnam vets going to my side of the world where I was born and buying my freedom, basically. So thank you so much for giving that shout out. Congratulations for sure. All right, you guys. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will chat a little later, Rich. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning here on American Dream Makers. if you enjoyed this, please be sure to share it out. What an amazing man Rich is, and just so humble, and what just a dedicated warrior, and just love everything about him and what he continues to do. So please share this out. What a wonderful, wonderful story. If you like the content of American Dream Makers, please be sure to like and subscribe on my YouTube, American Dream Makers, Zena Krogadal on Facebook, and also LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you all, and have a wonderful, blessed day. And we will be back another time with another guest, another American Dream Maker. So Rich is absolutely an American Dream Maker. Keep up the good fight, my friend. All right, have a blessed day.